Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Second Kings chapters 14 through 17 in our continuing study of the historical books of the Old Testament. We've already noted in First and Second Kings, and this is originally one united book. We had the United Kingdom of Solomon in the first 12 chapters. Next, we had wars of Judah and Israel in First Kings chapters 13 through 16, and then the ministry of Elijah that took us all the way into Second Kings chapter 1. The pivotal point in the whole book, the sort of the everything flows up to this and then out of this, the passing of the prophetic mantle from Elijah to Elisha in Second Kings chapter 2. We already had the ministry of Elijah, so now is the ministry of Elisha in chapters 3 through 13. Notice quite a few more chapters. More wars of Judah and Israel, and finally, what we'll see in the future is the kingdom of Judah by itself. That's after the northern kingdom of Israel is taken into captivity. So that's where we're headed. Chapter 14, verse 1. In the second year of Joash, son of Joahaz, king of Israel, Amaziah, the son of Joash, and notice we've got two different Joashes. We've got a Joash that was the father of the king of Israel, and now we've got Joash, the father of the king of Judah. And I say father because now Amaziah becomes the new king of Judah in the south. And so here, this is the timeline we've been looking at. Notice it goes from the top to the bottom as we continue in time. So we're having uh, Jehoash down in as one of the kings of the fourth dynasty. Already, the northern kingdom of Israel has had four different dynasties. There's going to be more. But now, as we look at Judah, now we're going to have Amaziah, and he's going to reign for quite a while. Amaziah now becomes king of the southern kingdom of Judah. Notice that Elisha will be alive for part of his reign, but Elisha's already been alive for a number of. Elisha's an old guy by now, and so he's not going to be long for this earth, and he's going to die during the reign of Amaziah. Chapter 14, verse 3, he did right, Amaziah did right in the sight of the Lord, yet not like David his father. Now, David, when it says David his father, David is the founder of the line. He was way back. He did according to all that Joash, his father, had done, only the high places were not taken away. The people still sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. That's going to be an issue throughout most of the history of Judah. Worshiping God, yes, but worshiping God in the wrong place and maybe in the wrong way. Verse 5, now it came about as soon as the kingdom was firmly in his hand that he killed his servants who had slain the king his father. He had come to the throne by assassination. He didn't do it, and now he punishes those who did. However, we see, but the sons of the slayers he did not put to death, according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, as the Lord commanded, saying, the fathers shall not be put to death for the sons, nor the sons be put to death for the fathers, but each shall be put to death for his own sin. So he doesn't do like a what do you call that when you just take out all of the families, like a family feud. He doesn't want to enter into that. He just puts the guilty parties to death. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 16 is the passage that's quoted there, and he's following the law. So Amaziah defeats Edom in battle. Edom is the kingdom to the south of the Dead Sea. And he looks at that and he says, look at me, I'm pretty hot stuff. And now he picks a fight with Jehoash of Israel. Now, Israel's less than it had been because remember, Israel, thanks to Aram had come down and taken the lands that are on the east side of the Jordan and taken them away from Israel. And so Israel has been weakened, and Amaziah thinks, well, because they're weakened, I can do what I want. And so he's going to fight a battle at Beth Shemesh, which is sort of interesting because Beth Shemesh is like, it's not like in the Israel-Judah border. This is Israel coming down to the coast and then coming inland from there and attacking in what we call the Shephelah, the foothills. Beth Shemesh, the house of the sun. That's actually the place where Samson had been in that neighborhood back in his day. And he fights and loses because he's captured by the northern kingdom of Israel. So that's not a good scene. Jerusalem is plundered now by the king of the northern kingdom of Israel, by Jehoash. And he goes into Jerusalem and just takes whatever's not nailed down. He tears down some of the wall. So Judah is worse off for having entered into this battle. He did okay against Edom, but not so good against the northern kingdom of Israel. And actually, he was accused there. He said, hey, you think you're hot stuff? You think you're letting your pride get in the way of common sense, and that actually turns to be an accurate prediction. Now, 2 Kings chapter 14, then, we have Amaziah first crowned king. That's verses 1 through 4. The assassins are punished. We already looked at that. And he's defeated by the northern kingdom of Israel. That's after having gone against Edom. Next, we find out that he's going to be assassinated. Not like right away, but eventually he will be killed at the end of his life. You know, he came to the throne not because by him assassinating anybody, but because his father had been killed by his own people, and he is killed by his own people. And now Azariah is going to be crowned king. And so we went from Amaziah, and he reigned a good long time, but now to Azariah, who also has the name Uzziah. That's how he is known, for example, in Isaiah chapter 6. He's going to be mentioned. In the 15th year of Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, that's who we were talking about just now. Now we're going to go back up to the northern kingdom because we're flip-flopping from one to the other, especially when they reign at the same time. Now we have Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, became king in Samaria and reigned 41 years. That's going to be one of the longer reigns of any of the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel. Verse 24, he did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam. You say, wait a second, this is Jeroboam. There was a previous Jeroboam. The first Jeroboam had become king of the northern kingdom after Solomon. This is a different Jeroboam. He's in the fourth dynasty, no relationship to the first Jeroboam, except they happen to have the same name. That was Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which he made Israel sin. This Jeroboam is following in his footsteps, even though they're not related. So we're going to call him Jeroboam the second. Notice we read that he restored the border of Israel from the entrance of Hamath. Hamath is way up there in the north on the Orontes River, as far as the Sea of the Arabah. Sea of the Arabah is what we call the Jordan River Valley. And so the Sea of the Arabah would be the Dead Sea. Notice, according to the word of the Lord, the God of Israel, which he spoke through his servant Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet who was of Gath Hepher. Now, here's Jonah. The only time Jonah is mentioned in the historical books. This is this one verse. This maybe gives us a clue as to when Jonah lived. Jonah had to be alive in order to give this prophecy. I don't necessarily think that he was alive a long time before this, so this is probably telling us the days in which he lived. And of course, Jonah is the one who's going to go to Nineveh and preach to Nineveh and see the city of Nineveh at least come to the Lord, repent and turn to the Lord. But here's Jonah, who'd given a prophecy not found in the book of Jonah about Israel, having some territories again. And so we have Jeroboam the second, as we said, he's going to be a long time. And Jonah is during his period. Also during his period is going to be Hosea and Amos. They are going to be contemporaries around the same time. It's also at this point where we have found an interesting relic, a seal. Now, it looks really big on the screen. Actually, it's really tiny, so smaller than like a penny or even a dime. It's a tiny little thing, and it's a seal. It says Shema, servant of Jeroboam. Probably this Jeroboam. Notice the seal, the picture of the lion on it. Maybe that becomes his signature. It's a signature seal, and here, this would be an official seal that would be pressed into some sort of hot clay or something like that to be the signature of the king. And so we go from Jeroboam the second. Now we already said that's fourth dynasty. Next, we're going to have his son Zechariah will briefly come to the throne. That's going to pretty much finish up the fourth dynasty. And so we have the fourth dynasty complete. Next, we come to chapter 15, verse 1. In the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, Azariah, the son of Amaziah, king of Judah, became king. Now, we already said he's also known as Uzziah. That's the name by which we're going to see him in the book of Isaiah, chapter 6. He was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned 52 years. So again, another very long reigning king. When kings reign for a long time, I think it's probably a sign of stability. That's a good thing. Of course, you get to if he's reigned too long, maybe he's a little bit weak at the end, but hopefully wiser. So he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jecoliah of Jerusalem. He did right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. So we have several kings that are of Judah that are doing right. Kings of Israel, not so much, because they keep having those wrong places of worship. Remember the calf that they have, one at Bethel, one at Dan in the north. But these kings aren't doing that sort of thing, hopefully. And so he did what was right in the sight of the Lord, again along the lines that his father had done. The Lord struck the king. Now we're not told why he struck the king, so that he was a leper to the day of his death. We're told in other places, but I'm going to wait until we get there. Yes, he's following the Lord, but sometimes even one who's following the Lord can do wrong and can be punished as a result of that. And so he becomes a leper. We're not told the story here. We'll see this when we get to Chronicles. And he lived in a separate house because if you're a leper, that can be contagious. While Jotham, the king's son, was over the household, and so they're going to have a co-regency. He'll still be king. Now he's going to be very very old because he's going to reign 50 some odd years, and his son will be reigning right alongside him. Making maybe the big decisions or at least doing the day-to-day things. So Jotham, the king's son, was over the household, judging the people of the land. And so this leprosy thing becomes that which separates him from the duties of a king. And we already noted, chapter 6, verse 1, the year of King Uzziah's death. I saw the Lord sitting on a throne. So that Isaiah is going to begin his ministry when Uzziah dies. And so we have Azariah, also known as Uzziah. I'm used to calling him Uzziah, so forgive me. And then Jotham, who was a co-reigner with him, now becomes the actual king after his father's death. Notice I put 750. So 10 years of that was co-reigning with his father. But then he's going to continue after that for another 9 years by himself. Verse 8, in the 38th year of Azariah, king of Judah, Zechariah, we're back up to the northern kingdom again, the son of Jeroboam, became king over Israel and Samaria for 6 months. It's not going to be a very long time to reign as king. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which he made Israel sin. We've seen that as a regular, ongoing refrain. Almost the only time it changes from that is when we go from bad to worse, when somebody is worshiping Baal, but we haven't seen that lately. Then Shallum, the son of Jabesh, conspired against him and struck him before the people and killed him and reigned in his place. So that ends that dynasty. So we have the fourth dynasty coming to an end with Zechariah. Shallum comes. Now, Shallum's not going to get a chance to do his own dynasty. He's going to be can I call it a one-term president? He's going to be one term, one family. But he's killed the previous dynasty. And verse 12, this is the word of the Lord which he spoke to Jehu, saying, your sons to the fourth generation shall sit on the throne of Israel. And so it was. So we have that. That was the line of Jehu we'd been watching. And now the line of Jehu's come to the end of itself. They were able to reign for 4 generations. Now they're done. Now they've gone the way. They've gone away. Shallum, the son of Jabesh, became king in the 39th year of Uzziah, king of Judah, and he reigned 1 month. That's really short in Samaria. Then Menahem, son of Gadi, went up from Tisra and came to Samaria and struck Shallum, son of Jabesh in Samaria, killed him and became king in his place. So we have Shallum. That's only 1 month. Sorry, I couldn't make it skinnier, but you wouldn't have been able to read it. And now he's out, and Menahem is in. Then Menahem struck Pifsha and all who were in it and its borders. Now Tifsha is way up in on the Euphrates River. In fact, the term actually the name seems to mean ford, so it's probably a place where you can cross the Euphrates. He struck Tifsha and all who were in it and its borders from Tirzah because they did not open to him. Therefore he struck it and ripped up all the women who were with child. That's sort of nasty. Jeroboam had extended the kingdom, at least his influence that far, and Menahem is trying to keep it or maybe regain it in this case. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all his days from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. That's the refrain we've been seeing, which he made Israel sin. Again, bad story, bad story, bad story. Kings of Israel, that's the general judgment that we're seeing of them. Now we see a new character, Pul, king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver so that his hand might be with him to strengthen the kingdom under his rule. So now we see a new group. These are the Syrians. Remember how we had Jonah going to the city of Nineveh? Nineveh was an Assyrian city. I'm not sure that it was the capital of Assyria in Jonah's day. It would eventually become that. But, sometimes a nation can change its capitals, and the Assyrians actually did that sort of thing. Then Menahem exacted the money from Israel to pay off Pul. By the way, Pul is another name for him is going to be Tiglath-Pileser. That might be where the Pul part comes from. Tiglath-Pileser III. Well, then Menahem exacted the money from Israel, even from all the mighty men of wealth, from each man 50 shekels of silver, to pay the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria returned and did not remain there in the land. He came, he took whatever wasn't nailed down, you paid him off, and he went back home because really he was just in it for the money. Now, we said this is Tiglath-Pileser the third, and that Pul part might be where we get the Pul. I don't want to say that for sure because we don't really know. I've heard all sorts of theories on the meaning of that name, and since they're contradictory, I'm just going to stick with maybe it's just like a shortened form of his name. And so, also known as Pul, originally he had been an Assyrian general who himself took over, which we saw the kings of Israel have taken over, got rid of the former dynasty, and now they're ruling. He took the throne of Assyria after an Assyrian civil war, and defeated the Medes, and now has turned his way west and is interested in both lands to the west and getting money from the west. We read in verse 22, and Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah, his son, became king. So we have the makings of a dynasty. Won't be a very long one, but we have the makings of a dynasty, at least a king and his son. In the 50th year of Azariah, king of Judah, remember he was going to reign a long time, Pekahiah of Menahem became king over Israel and Samaria and reigned 2 years, not very long. Here's the refrain. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, which he made Israel sin. Almost getting tired of reading it. I'm sure the Lord was getting tired of seeing it. And so now we have Pekahiah. Notice again, he did evil in the sight of the Lord. And so we have Pekahiah. Now we find then Pekah, son of Remaliah, his officer, conspired against him and struck him in Samaria. So this didn't last long. In the castle of the king's house with Argob and Ariah, and with him were 50 men of the Gileadites. So they've got not just an assassin, but they have a coalition. They have they're planning this. This is a planned overthrow. And he killed him and became king in his place. And so we go, well, where are we going to have a dynasty? I'm not sure if father and son can make that. And so now we go to Pekah, notice son of Remaliah. And so we had Pekah, but now we have Pekah who with another takeover. We're getting close to the end of the nation of Israel. They're only going to go to 721. We're up now to 742 to 732 with Pekah. In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, Tiglath-Pileser, here he is again, king of Assyria. Notice how we switched from Pul to his full name, Tiglath-Pileser, but it's the same person, came and captured, and he's going to capture a number of places in the northern part of Israel. Aijan and Abel Beth Maacah, and Janoah, and Kadesh, and Hatzor, And Gilead is over on the east side of the Jordan. Remember, they had lost that earlier to Aram, but apparently they had gotten it back under the days of Jeroboam II, if not a bit earlier. All the land of Naphtali. Naphtali is up there around Galilee. Actually, it says Galilee, Gilead and Galilee, and all the land of Naphtali. That's in that same area. And he carried them captive to Assyria. So we have a partial Assyrian captivity, but it's not everybody. It's just some of these places in the north. Incidentally, if you hear on a quiz me asking when does the captivity of the northern tribes of Israel take place, this isn't it. This is some of the tribes, but this isn't the whole thing. So sometimes if you check Google, you're going to get the wrong answer. Let me just say that. Um, Listen up in class instead of Google, because that's and actually I left that deliberately. I allow you to check Google, but I want you to listen in class and look at the scriptures and look at what we say here in both the video and the readings. But we have a partial captivity taking place here. And so this is at the hands of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria. And Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, and we didn't even get, and even the beginnings of another dynasty. We just go right to another king, the son of Remaliah, and struck him and put him to death, and became king in his place in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. So we go from Pekah now to Hoshea, another overthrow, and this is going to be the last one. This is going to be the last king of the northern kingdom of Israel. We had 4 dynasties, 5 if you want to count a couple of those guys where they were father and son, but that's it. It really didn't go very far. And now Israel is going to come to a close. And so chapter 16, verse 1, in the 17th year of Pekah, the son of Remaliah, Ahaz, the son of Jotham, king of Judah, became king. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, so I'll go from 20 to around 36. And he did not do what was right. We haven't seen this in a while. Most of the kings of Judah lately have been doing pretty good. Not Ahaz. He did not do what was right in the sight of the Lord, his God, as his father David had done. We're going to read some of the not right things that he does. He's going to allow some of the pagan worship. Now, they're worshiping God. They're not supposed to be worshiping pagan idols, but a little of that is beginning to creep in with Ahaz, and he's on the throne, and now he's going to be threatened by his neighbors. So this is the days of Isaiah. In fact, Isaiah chapter 7 is going to speak specifically, give us a story about Ahaz as he's been threatened by some of his northern neighbors, including Israel. You say, wait a second, Israel went into captivity. Not at the beginning of his reign. Israel was still there. Notice 732 to 721. 721, Israel will finally go into captivity. Ahaz will have already been king by that time for about 13, 14 years. Okay, so Israel is still there and looks to be still a threat. It's not immediately obvious to everyone that Israel's about to go into captivity, even though they lost some of their territory to the north. They're still a force to be reckoned with. And so both Isaiah and Micah, and I say Isaiah and Micah because there's a section of Isaiah. It's in, let me think about this for a second. I think it's in chapter 2. Yep. And there's a section in Micah chapter 4 where there's about 2 or 3 verses that are identical, and it's a promise about how in the last days the house of the Lord is going to be raised up. Great prophecy, and it's word for word the same. You say, well, did Isaiah take it from Micah? Did Micah take it from Isaiah? Did they both get it word for word from God? But prophets don't usually, and even when God is speaking to people, you don't usually have identical terms given unless it comes from the common source. And I think that's probably the case here, where you have an identical prophecy, both in Micah and Isaiah. Now, there's a lot more of their books that are distinct and different from each other, but they are at the same time, and so one maybe is copying a bit off of the other, at least with regard to that prophecy. And so, reading about Ahaz, he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and even made his son pass through the fire. What's that? That was using the practices of some of the other nations where they would sacrifice their own son to try to get the attention of the pagan gods. And he does that. Notice, even made his son pass through the fire according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord had driven out from before the sons of Israel. That was a Canaanite practice. He wasn't supposed to be doing Canaanite practices. Verse 4, he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places. Not only were they there, he was participating in that wrong worship, and on the hills and under every green tree. He was engaging in these wrong religious practices. Verse 5, chapter 16, verse 5. Then Rezin, king of Aram, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to wage war. And the story here is told in Isaiah chapter 7, verses 1 through 15. We're not going to tell the story. We're not going to tell all the story. But there's some story here. Notice they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. It looked like they were going to. They were saying, we've already got your replacement picked out. We're going to come. We're going to take you out. And he goes to Isaiah. And he says, what's this about? And Isaiah gives him a promise that these two kings that you're worried about, God's going to he's going to get rid of them. He's going to overcome both of them. Within a number of years, they're both going to be taken away. And they will be by the Assyrians. And if you remember in that prophecy, God says, ask for a sign. I'll give you a sign. And Ahaz doesn't really want to give a sign. And God gets a little bit upset with him. I told you to ask for a sign. Do what I tell you to do. And so I'm going to give you a sign. A young woman, the Septuagint translates that virgin, and the New Testament does too. So this young woman who's not married, a young virgin, this damsel, this maiden, she's going to bear a son. Now it doesn't say this is going to be a virgin birth. Ultimately, I think this does look forward to Jesus, but there was an immediate application of this prophecy right now where a young woman presumably in his court was going to bear a son, and before the boy was on solid food, that's the next verse, that's verse 15, before the boy was on solid food, the two kings, Rezin and Pekah, would be taken from their thrones, would be removed. And so here they come to attack, but it's very short-lived. And that promise is there to let Ahaz know it's not going to last. Now, chapter 16, verse 6. At that time, Rezin, king of Aram, recovered Elat. So no, they did not take Judah, but he did capture. Rezin captured Elat. Elat is a city right on the tip of what we call the Gulf of Aqaba, the Red Sea. It was an ancient city. It had been there in Solomon's day. It was there right now in Ahaz's day. Actually, it's still there today. They still call it Elat, and the name has changed in 3,000 years. But now they recovered for Aram and cleared the Judeans out of Elat entirely, and the Arameans came to Elat and have lived there to this day. Remember, I have suggested that this might be almost like in the way of a diary to this day. I'm not sure that that's all the way until after the Babylonian captivity, or even to the Babylonian captivity, but at least for a good long while, as this was being written and recorded and saved, that continued to be the case. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I'm your servant and your son. Come and deliver me from the hand of the king of Aram. I didn't like the fact that Aram came down and took Elat from me. Deliver me from the hand of the king of Aram and from the hand of the king of Israel who will rise up against me. Notice God had already said, I'll take care of them. I'll take them out. And instead of trusting in the Lord, Ahaz tries to do his own thing. He's going to trust in the king of Assyria. Never a good idea. King of Assyria can't necessarily be trusted. Yes, he'll do what he's paid to do, but then he's going to say, "Gee, you have the money to pay me. Maybe you have more money that I can come and get later on." And so Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's house and sent a present to the king of Assyria. That's the payoff money. So the king of Assyria listened to him, and the king of Assyria went up against Damascus and captured it and carried the people of it away into exile to Kir. Kir is in those mountains to the east of Assyria. It's the area of the Medes, maybe a little bit on the north side of that, and put Rezin to death. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, and I already introduced us to Hoshea, I said he's going to be the last king of the northern kingdom of Israel, the son of Elah, became king over Israel and Samaria and reigned 9 years. We're coming right up to the end of the northern kingdom of Israel. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, only not as the kings of Israel who were before him. He's not good. He's not terrible, but he's not good. By the way, notice we've actually found a seal of his as well. A little bit bigger, but still very small, and this is blown up considerably. I think the workmanship on this is actually quite remarkable. It says belonging to Abdi, the servant of Hoshea. Probably when it says servant, that's not like his slave, but probably somebody who's maybe his chief of staff or something like that. Um, we read now that Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against him, and Hoshea became his servant, paid him tribute. That's the sort of the common thing. Assyrians come, show me the money, pay me money. But the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, who had sent messengers to So. So you've got Hoshea, king of the northern kingdom of Israel, and he had sent messengers to So. That's the name of a king of Egypt, possibly the Libyan pharaoh Osorkon the fourth. Notice the So part of Osorkon. That might be where we're getting that name. And had offered no tribute to the king of Assyria as he had done year by year. So the king of Assyria shut him. The him we're talking about, the king of Egypt, had been shut up now and bound in prison. And so Hoshea is sort of caught in the middle. He was like, being pulled both ways, making deals and counter deals, and he's stuck in the middle. And Assyria is coming out as the big winner here. And so the king of Assyria invaded now because of these conspiracy deals. He invaded the whole land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. Now, notice earlier we were told the name of the king of Assyria. Now we just read the king of Assyria because what happens? The king of Assyria dies, and a new king of Assyria shows up claiming to be the younger brother of the previous king of Assyria. His name's going to be Sargon II, and he'll take credit for capturing Samaria. Did he capture it? Who was it? It's not entirely sure. But we read now, in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria, again unnamed, captured Samaria and carried Israel away into exile to Assyria and settled them in Halah and Habor on the river Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. So they take them out of the land, and this was the Assyrian policy. When they would really conquer a people, not just when they're saying, okay, show us the money, but when they're actually conquering a people because they hadn't paid the money they wanted, they would actually relocate them to a different location so that they would no longer be imbued with a sense of nationalism. We're not going to fight for our country because we don't even live in our country anymore. And they would take them out to another place and then put outsiders into their place, again, to accomplish the same thing, where they might feel sort of out of sorts in a strange land, in a strange country, and they're more apt to be pacified this way. This was the idea here. Now, the people that are relocated here. Notice I'm referring to them as Samaritans, not because they're a separate people group, but because they're living in and around an ancient location that had been called Samaria. That is, the city of Samaria is now going to give name. We're not going to call it Israel, the northern kingdom of Israel anymore. There's no more northern kingdom of Israel. Instead, there are these outsiders who are resettled in the territory, and we read that God sent lions as they were settler and they started worshiping their pagan gods that they had brought with them from other countries. And they begin thinking, what's going on here with these lions? Now, there were lions in the Middle East back then. You won't find them there anymore today. They've all died out. They've moved on to other places. But God sends lions as they worship pagan gods, and this comes to the attention of the Assyrians, and the Assyrians say, well, look, we sent them there to be not super prosperous, but to be prosperous enough where they can pay us taxes. We want money from them. Show us the money. And so the Assyrians are going to call for an Israelite priest who had been taken, an unnamed priest, we don't know who it was, but someone who had been taken with all of the other Israelites of the northern kingdom, relocated, And this one's going to be brought back. This Israelite priest is going to be returned to Bethel, in the land of the north, what had been the northern kingdom. It no longer is. And his job is going to teach immigrants about the God of the land, the God Yahweh. And so here are the Assyrians taking God's people out, but the other people that are being brought in, they're giving instructions for a missionary enterprise to take place. Not that they care about the gods, they just care about the lions. And so this is going to lead to a pluralistic sort of worship. That's not good, except that, remember, part of that pluralism is going to be these outsiders that never even have heard of the God of Israel are going to start following, at least in part at first, the God of Israel, and that's going to catch on. So that by the time we get to the New Testament, there are going to be and we're going to still call them Samaritans. Now, they're not going to be so much in the Galilee region, but in that region south of Galilee, but north of Judah, the Samaritans are going to be there, and they're going to be worshiping the Lord God. Not only that, they're going to have copies of the Scripture, at least the Torah. Now, a few verses here and there get changed. I think some of them might have been accidental changes. When you're copying from one text to another, sometimes you make a typo. I've made typos on some of these PowerPoints, and hopefully fixed most of them. And they did a few things like that, but there was at least one change that I think was deliberate, where instead of 10 commandments, for example, they're going to have 11 commandments. The 11th commandment will say, "And you shall worship the Lord on Mount Gerizim," which happens to be in their territory. Well, I don't think God wrote it that way. But this leads to, yes, a pluralistic worship, and that's bad, but it's also going to lead to them hearing about the God of Israel and believing in the God of Israel. And if you go there today, you say, well, that's the country of Israel. Yes, but that's West Bank territory today, or that's what it's called right this second, at least, as I'm making this video. Yes, it's part of the land of Israel, but it's part of the land that's known as West Bank territory, and sometimes we'll talk about Palestinian, and you can use that term because that's the area. That's not a country, but that's the area. But there's also Samaritans still there. There were in New Testament times story how Jesus comes and has a visit. He's sitting by a well, and a Samaritan woman comes. And not only that, but other times he also goes through Samaria. And at least in that town, the town of Sychar, near those two mountains, one of which was Gerizim, where the Samaritans had been saying, "Worship the Lord in Gerizim." They hear about Jesus and they come to believe. And my daughter and my son-in-law a few years ago were not just in Israel, but they were in the Samaritan part of Israel, and they got a chance to meet some Samaritans. They're still there today, and even some Samaritan priests, even the Samaritan high priests, and they were talking to some of them, and some of them were saying, "Hey, I'm not sure if we're supposed to do this, but we've been reading the Bible." No, not just their Bible. They've been reading our Bible and noticing that Jesus had some really nice things to say about Samaritans. Like he even told the story of a good Samaritan. And he said some things about the Samaritans, and you say, wow, Jesus liked us. and we want to say, yes, he loved the whole world, including you guys. And there are instances of the Samaritans coming to know Christ. And it all starts right here in 2 Kings.